He was born with no name anyone would remember. A child of dirt and frost, born in a hut on the edge of a forgotten forest. His father died in a tax riot. His mother vanished during a plague. By the time he was 12, he belonged to no one. But there was something strange about his eyes, too calm for someone so hungry. He watched more than he spoke. And when he did speak, people listened, without knowing why. He never learned to write, but he remembered everything. Every conversation, every insult, every secret told too loudly by nobles who assumed the servants were deaf. He worked in stables, cleaned boots, scrubbed blood from banquet floors. The highborn never noticed him, and that became his power. Listened, waited, absorbed everything. By the time he was 17, he knew the names of all the mistresses, all the bastard sons and which baron's daughter had run off with a monk. It was in the city of Thornburg where his rise truly began. The powerful duke had taken him in as a stable boy, not out of kindness, but because the boy had once saved a prized warhorse from drowning. The duke never asked his name, just called him boy. But when that same duke's rival was assassinated with a blade the boy had personally polished hours before, something shifted. The duke summoned him. He didn't ask if the boy had done it, he simply asked what he wanted in return. The boy asked for nothing. The duke laughed. "You're either very wise or very stupid." The next week, the boy was no longer in the stables. He was moved to the war council not as a soldier, but as a shadow. He stood behind chairs, held maps, poured wine, and listened. He learned how power worked not from books, but from the tremble in a general's voice. The twitch of a jealous brother's hand, the silence that followed when someone in the room realized a plan had failed. He began offering harmless suggestions to the steward. Quiet comments no one paid attention to until those suggestions started saving lives, winning battles, ending disputes. By 20, he was the secret advisor behind the duke's most brilliant decisions. By 25, the duke was dead. Poisoned, they said. Officially, it was blamed on a rival duchess, and war broke out. Unofficially, no one could prove who had replaced the sugar in the duke's tea. But the boy was the only servant left untouched, even promoted. And the new duke, who had once hated the old one, took the boy in as a personal whisperer. From then on, it spread like fungus through stone. Kingdom after kingdom, court after court, the boy, now a man, was passed between nobles like a rumor. He had no title, no land, no coat of arms, but somehow he had influence everywhere. One day he would be seen beside a Bavarian prince, the next beside a Flemish queen. No one knew who employed him. No one dared question why so many rulers sought his presence, yet none could claim him as their own. He became known only as the quiet man. What made him so powerful was not just what he knew, but what he chose not to say. He would hint at betrayals before they happened, whispered names hours before revolts. Offer single-sentence advice that prevented bloodshed or caused it. His strategies were never credited to him. But the victors knew. Some said he had no loyalty to any crown. Others said he had loyalty to all of them at once. In truth, he had no interest in being king, had no throne, no court, no armies. But he controlled those who did. When the Holy Roman Emperor was assassinated in his sleep, it was the quiet man who arranged the meeting that placed the next emperor on the throne. No documents, no handshakes, just a letter with 6 words. He will listen if you bow. When the French crown nearly collapsed under rebellion, it was the quiet man who convinced the 3 feuding princes to step down and install their mother as regent. How he did it, no one knows. But the fact remains that 3 war-hardened men bowed to a woman they once hated just days after each, receiving a small carved bird made of black oak. The black bird became his symbol. No one knew what it meant, but when one arrived, people obeyed. It was said that receiving one meant you had 3 days to make the right decision, or face consequences that came without armies. Some nobles who ignored the warning were found drowned in their wine cellars. Others simply vanished, replaced overnight by cousins or new advisors who happened to think exactly like the quiet man. By now, Europe had kings, but they ruled nothing alone. They all looked behind their shoulders for the one man without a crown who could make or break their kingdoms. He had spies, of course, not trained assassins or agents, but forgotten people. Scribes, midwives, blacksmith apprentices, gravekeepers, people who were never seen but always watching. They fed him information not for gold, but because he made their lives better. He would send medicine to their villages, bread to their children, justice where no judge came. In exchange, they told him everything, and they never betrayed him. Some say he even spoke with the Ottomans, that he prevented a full-scale invasion by sending a single book of translated poetry to the Sultaness' daughter. Others claim he foiled a papal assassination by revealing the killer's name written in lemon juice on a violin string. The details became legend, but the pattern remained. When the quiet man moved, Europe shifted. He never married. But rumors swirled of a son hidden in the mountains, raised by scholars, trained not as a prince, but as a successor of shadows, mind sharper than daggers, quieter than silk. But no one ever confirmed his existence. In time, the quiet man began to fade. Not because he was no longer powerful, but because he had already shaped the world to his liking. Wars were fewer. Monarchs were wiser, or at least more cautious. He had installed thinkers where thugs once ruled. He had replaced bloodlines with brilliance, greed with caution. His handprints were on every law, every border, every treaty signed between 1340 and 1390. When he died, no funeral was held, no bells rang. No king announced mourning. But in secret, 13 monarchs across Europe lit candles in their private chapels on the same night. No one told them to, no one reminded them. But they all remembered. His body was never found. Some say he was buried beneath the library he helped build in Prague. Others believe he simply walked into the Black Forest and vanished. A few claim he never died at all, that he simply changed faces, that his successor walks among us, whispering into ears, shaping policy, guiding from the dark. He had no crown, yet every crowned head bent to him. No army, yet every battle bore his signature. No history book names him outright, but every chapter bears his breath. He was a peasant once, then a servant, then a shadow, and for nearly 50 years was the secret ruler of Europe.